Welcome to World Talk Brief. Instead of answers, the Epstein files have unleashed a political firestorm. And right at the center of it all, a really serious accusation, a presidential cover-up.
Yeah, that was Hillary Clinton in a recent BBC interview, and she's pointing the finger directly at the Trump administration over the Jeffrey Epstein files. So what is really going on here? I mean, is this a genuine cover-up? Or is it just the latest battle in a long-running political war? Let's dig in and find out. Okay, so first let's just focus on the accusation itself. This is a pretty big deal, right? A former Secretary of State calling out the current administration. So, on one hand, you've got Clinton's team making this really direct accusation of a cover-up, but on the other hand, the White House is firing back, saying, hey, we've done more for the victims than the Democrats ever have. To figure out what's actually happening, we've got to look past the headlines and the political soundbites. And you know, this whole thing isn't just about political sparring. The real core of this disagreement, it actually comes down to the law. What does the law actually say? And, just as important, what doesn't it say? You've probably heard about the millions of new files that just came out. Well, the reason we have them is because Congress passed something called the Epstein Files Transparency Act. And the whole point of this law was pretty simple, to force the Department of Justice to release its investigation files to the public. Okay, and this is where things get kind of messy. See, the Department of Justice says, look, we've done our part. We've released all the files the law required. But for some politicians, that's not good enough. Now they're asking for something else entirely, internal DOJ memos, which, and this is the key part, were not included in that original law. Now, this whole fight didn't just pop up overnight, not at all. It's really just the latest chapter in a story that's been going on for a long time. It goes all the way back to Epstein's first conviction more than a decade ago, then his death in 2019, and now this new Transparency Act. And it's all building up to the Clintons getting ready to testify before Congress. Of course, what makes this such a huge political story are the big names involved. But here's something we have to be super clear about, and the source material really emphasizes this. Just because someone's name is in these files, that does not mean they've been accused of a crime. That's a crucial distinction. So who are we talking about? Well, former President Bill Clinton's name shows up a few times. Donald Trump's name is in there hundreds of times. For their part, both of them say they cut off contact with Epstein decades ago. And then there's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, who's now getting a lot of pressure to testify about his own connections. And again, just to be crystal clear on this point, the source material is very specific that, within these particular files, none of Epstein's survivors have accused either of the Clintons or Donald Trump of any wrongdoing. And Andrew has always denied any wrongdoing himself. Okay, so with all that as background, let's take a look at how both sides are trying to frame this story for the public. So you've got the Clinton camp saying, we have nothing to hide, this whole hearing is just a political distraction. On the flip side, you have Trump saying the files actually prove he did nothing wrong and that this whole thing is really a problem for the Democrats. It's pretty obvious that both sides are working hard to control the story and manage the political damage. And all of this political back and forth, it's all leading up to a major event, a big showdown in Congress. And that's where we'll see these two completely different stories go head to head. And just to give you some perspective on how big a deal this is, think about this. The last time a former U.S. president testified in front of a congressional panel was way back in 1983. So the fact that Bill Clinton has agreed to do it, wow, that just shows you how much political pressure is building here. But, you know, it's not like they just volunteered to show up. Congress was actually about to vote to hold them in contempt. It was only when faced with that threat that they agreed to testify. It really goes to show just how heated this whole situation has become. All right, so let's circle back to the big question we started with. Is there a cover-up? So here's what the source material lays out. 1. Congress passed a law demanding specific files. 2. The Department of Justice released the files that were required by that law. And 3. The fight has now changed. It's about a new demand for internal memos that, remember, weren't part of that original law. And that really gets us to the heart of the matter. The argument isn't about the files that Congress legally asked for anymore. It's about these internal memos they want now. So here's the question. If you don't hand over documents that the law never required you to, is that a cover-up, like Hillary Clinton says it is, or is this just the next play in a very high-stakes political game? And really, that's the question at the center of this whole firestorm.
Subscribe to World Talk Brief for more clear, thoughtful explanations. World Talk Brief, news explained without the noise.